welcome back to a new episode of ThoughtCast, our podcast series where we interact with the industry's top experts to discuss the drivers of market growth and discover what lies ahead for the CRE industry. As the pandemic loosens its grip and the economy springs into action, the CRE industry is also witnessing a sharp rebound in occupier sentiments. Demand for flex workspaces are soaring, and so are the leasing activities across all major markets, with Mumbai being one of the top cities in overall office leasing activity. To understand the factors driving this growth and forecast the future of Mumbai CRE market, we have one of the leading CRE experts with us today. I'm extremely pleased to welcome Kaushik Shah, National Director, Occupier Strategies and Solutions, Mumbai at Knight Frank. Kaushik has been instrumental in driving the critical workplace decisions for many large occupiers in Mumbai region. He is exceptionally skilled in the negotiation, sales, feasibility studies, CRM, and asset management domain, and is known for his expertise in building lasting relationships with occupiers, landlords, and flex operators alike. He comes with an extensive experience of over 17 years in the real estate industry, with 15 years in CRE alone. Welcome to ThoughtCast, Kaushik. We are delighted to have you here for today's session.
Thank you, Sukirti, for inviting me for this session. I think it's a lovely initiative, and I'm happy to share my insights as we go forward in this particular podcast.
So, Kaushik, you've been managing and leading occupier strategies and solutions for many years now and have closely witnessed the changing dynamics of Mumbai's CRE market over the years. In fact, Knight Frank has recently come out with a report on Mumbai office market. We'd like to know your take on the market's performance and growth. So my first question for you is, what are the major changes that you've witnessed in occupier behavior towards workplaces in the past 3 years in Mumbai market?
I think, Sukirti, for the last 3 years, a major change that we've seen is in the co-working industry. The acceptability of co-working as a concept has increased dramatically. Cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Noida were already speaking the co-working language, if I may call it. But now, as we go forward, Mumbai is seeing the same kind of conversation. And at the core of every requirement today, flexibility is the key. Be it the tenure, be it the capex spend, be it the lock-in period, be it growth in space, degrowth. So we are currently in some uncertain times, and every occupier would like to keep their options open and have flexibility as the key when it comes to the requirement overall.
I think that makes a lot of sense when we correlate how flex space demand has gained momentum since the pandemic, with flexibility being the key, like you rightly pointed out. Moving on to my next question, what's your take on the demand distribution of co-working or flex spaces in Mumbai basis industry and products like flex spaces, enterprise solutions, meeting rooms, etc.?
I think it's been 15 years that I've been with in the CRE industry. The demand for flex spaces, it started earlier with some traditional players offering 2 seats, 10 seats. And it started as a short-term concept, if you needed spaces for 5 months, 6 months. And it was meant for occupiers with a lesser, seat requirement. But now as we move forward, demand for flex spaces has started, on a larger scale. Only about 5-6 years back, where the overall nomenclature of co-working kind of evolved, there were these new startups who were embracing this particular concept. And you had people going, startups taking up 200, 500, 1,000 seats in such kind of setups. And it started with the so-called Silicon Valley of India, which is Bangalore and Hyderabad. And now, if I look at Mumbai as a base, we are seeing some large BFSI, ITS clients looking at taking up large take-ups and for a longer tenure with these flex spaces. So overall, if I had to assess the demand, enterprise solutions, which is dedicated spaces meant for a specific occupier for longer tenure, is probably 60% of the overall demand of these flex spaces. and 40% will be those, co-working, what we called smaller setups that could be accommodated in these large centers.
That's very interesting to know, Kaushik. So moving on, my next question is, what is your prediction for the future of Mumbai's flex space demand in the next couple of years? And what are the factors that will drive it?
So Mumbai has been a late entrant, as I mentioned earlier, in this co-working bandwagon or the flex spaces or managed office bandwagon. But slowly, steadily, over the last 3 years, the overall take-up by these flex space operators has increased, and the number of seats have take up from these occupiers have increased. So it has led to an increase overall in absorption. I see centers across the city. 90% of the centers are completely full. And if you're looking at spaces which are, 100 seats and above, the number of centers that will offer such solutions will be limited. So demand is definitely catching up, and supply needs to catch up with the demand overall. In the current market, most landlords are seeing co-working, as an amenity, and they want to have at least one co-working operator in their large portfolio. If you have a large fund having a large grade A space, they would want some kind of a solution provided to their occupiers in the form of flex space operators. But at the same time, as we move forward, considering overall take-up has increased directly with these landlords would probably, not be as flexible when it comes to providing these spaces to operators in a structured manner, and that will be something that which I feel is a challenge, and developers need to see that this is a coexisting industry. So while you have conventional spaces, you have managed office spaces, they are not competition to each other, and one will complement the other. So that is the way they need to see it. So any large spaces that are coming up in the city or probably in India need to provide for these flex spaces, which will be a solution that you're providing to your occupiers overall.
Wow, I think that looks very promising for the flex workspace segment. In fact, whatever you've mentioned is very encouraging for all flex workspace providers and gives a lot of clarity. So while we've discussed the future, what are the top innovations that you think will bring about an even stronger growth for co-working players in Mumbai?
I think if you speak to any occupier at this point in time, there will be a conversation about ESG, which is about environment, social, and governance. And everyone has got their ESG goals in place. So how operators are lining up their centers, keeping in mind that the occupiers' ESG goals are met, will be the key. So that is one thing. Second thing that occupiers are talking today are, and they are in different stages of experimentation, as I may say it, they're talking about flexibility and they're talking about hybrid work culture. So whether an employee comes 4 times a week to office, 3 times a week, or 1 day a week to office, if in some manner the technology that the operator provides can be in sync with the HR initiatives of the company, that will be the key thing, because this is something that people are struggling with when it comes to assessing their seat requirement per se. So if you can provide a solution wherein the HR kind of understands what is the number of people that are coming in, what is the acceptability, how do I ensure that, at one point in time, how do I book my seats if I have to come at the center, and that gets integrated with the occupier's overall, software or something, that will be the key, I feel.
Great. Thank you so much for highlighting some very interesting points here, Kaushik. You spoke about ESG and the role of technology in improving the experience of employees as well. Moving on, We've also seen many corporate occupiers planning to open their offices in tier 2 cities. Do you think this is backed by the adoption of hybrid work model, and how critical is the role of co-working players in this movement to tier 2 cities?
When the pandemic started, it started with work from home. Then it started, probably people started speaking about hybrid culture. Uh, and at the same time, people started talking about work from anywhere, wherever you feel comfortable. At this point in time, the scales of, if you measure the employer employee, it is more tilted towards the employee. So employee is kind of dictating where do I want my office, and there is a dearth of talent when it comes to certain sectors. So um, given the cost of living, given certain factors, people have migrated back to their tier 2, tier 3 cities to work from there. But at times, these tier 2, tier 3 cities, when you're working from your home in these places, the infra may be an issue. You may not have the right kind of power, you may not have the right kind of bandwidth to effectively work from home when you're located in a tier 2, tier 3 city. So occupiers currently have gone to these tier 2 and tier 3 cities uh, to see if they can provide a organized solution to their occupier, to their employees on a regular basis, wherein they can work effectively. So cities like Indore, Jaipur, Chandigarh, these are all cities, Nashik, Nagpur, these are all cities which have seen occupiers taking up space so that they could get a new talent pool wherein they could recruit from. Secondly, we've seen operators going to that location wherein they could provide a immediate flex solution to these operators so that in a way the employee kind of makes up his mind and he wants to come back to tier 1 city in the future. uh, there is not too much of a capex that is invested or a commitment made on the rent part. So that is where flex operators have kind of shown interest in these particular cities.
Finally, while you are an expert in understanding and providing solutions to occupiers for their workplace strategies, what are your top 3 learnings from your career so far?
Yeah, so it's been 2007 since I've joined the industry, and I've seen two cycles. It started being landlord driven in 2007, went into tenant driven, and slowly as we speak is becoming a landlord driven market. So adaptability is the key. You need to accept the changes and ensure that you're continuously on a learning uh, path. When I look at co-working as a concept, until 5 years back, we didn't know how to grapple with a per seat cost and how do we make a tenant compare conventional versus, a co-working kind of a space or managed office space. But today, in the last 3, 4 years, we've understood what is the overall occupancy cost of an occupier, and how do we evaluate a co-working space versus a conventional space. So that is one key thing that is underlying theme for any CRE professional. If we can keep learning from the change that is coming about, that is going to help us in our careers. At the same time, we can provide those kind of solutions to our occupiers. So relationships need to be the key focus area for any CRE professional who's working. So it could be an operator, it could be a landlord, it could be a CRE guy. Relationship is the key to ensuring that you have a sustainable long career in this particular industry. Yeah. And the third thing that we've all learned from this pandemic, that when it comes to your strategy, gone are the days that we can prepare a 10-year strategy or 15-year strategy. You need to have your strategy which is more dynamic and keeping in mind the current work trends. So earlier, a issue or probably a strategy was formed at a corporate level, and the employees were supposed to kind of follow the strategy. when it came to workplace. Now it needs to be more inclusive. You need to take your employee into confidence, and they are at the center of each strategy. Once you do that, uh, you need to ensure that you implement it in that manner and effectively communicate it to the people for which you are preparing this workspace. It's not your residential space that you're forming. It's a workspace wherein everyone spends close to about 10 to 12 hours in that particular thing, in that particular premise. So you need to ensure that they are at the key focus. They are the key focus area when it comes to preparing your strategy, and it needs to be dynamic in the current times.
Wow, that's interesting to know. So I guess adaptability, relationship building, and having a dynamic strategy. These are the three main learnings that you've highlighted here. Thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule and sharing your valuable insights with us on Mumbai's flex workspace market.
Thank you, Sukirti. It was, in fact, a great session. Looking forward to a few more with you guys so that we could also learn from you as we go forward.
Thank you. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank our wonderful audience for listening in. Your amazing response is what keeps us motivated to deliver more informative content. So stay tuned until we meet next time to discuss another interesting topic with the leading CRE expert. Take care and stay safe.